Hi, welcome again to Talk About here on Shaw TV North Island. My name is John Twigg. We've got two interesting guests today, Bob Dice, President of Greenways Land Trust, and Cynthia Ben Dixon, the Acting Operations Manager. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Now, for those, if you can see, there's a lot to talk about. I was amazed at how much actually Greenways is doing, and but it's not that old. Bob, how old? What's the history?
We started we began in 1996, and I phoned a founding member. I got there in 1998, so I phoned Chuck DeSorcy, a founding member, last night, and he corrected my story about how we started. So we did start as a land trust. The city was getting people coming to them and wanted to turn some sensitive lands or some lands to the city, and for whatever reasons, the city couldn't accept. So a planner called Chris Hall got a group together, and many of the founding members were also involved in the Beaver Lodge, making it trust lands. Yeah. So some of those came over. Ron Burrell and Kent Moeller from Moeller & Associates helped out, and they formed us as this land trust to be able to take on, should there be land that people wanted to donate, that we would be the land trust to do that. And back then we called ourselves, and legally we still are, we're the Discovery Coast Greenways Land Trust. Okay. And we go from Sayward to the Oyster River to the Coast Mountains to the mountain range on Vancouver Island. So they had a big vision, but really what we are is pretty much Campbell River based with a little bit of outside of there, but that was the original vision. Yeah. And then I could fill in a little more.
The registered charity part is interesting. How was it originally a registered charity?
That's how they formed us, and that's been our bread and butter. That as it turned out, Kent, Chuck tells me, went out and he did find some land at Sayward, but then the idea, and for a very good price, but then we'd be a board group that would have to raise funds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we've never actually owned land. Cynthia can explain later, we have stewardship agreements with different agencies. We kind of went a different way, and I think it's been, I would say it's been the right way.
Which is?
Again, to be, as a nonprofit, we've become this umbrella for many organizations that don't have charitable status. So we are we'll hold money for the stream keepers, we'll hold their equipment, we're a resource center for them. We're the group that helped get the Laughing Willow Community Gardens going. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in there because regular viewers will know I'm an activist with the Campbellton Community Neighborhood Association, proper name Campbellton Neighborhood Association. But some people got the idea of starting a community garden there, and it's in progress, and it's probably going to happen. But the Greenways is providing insurance for that. Mm-hmm. I mean, where does that come from?
Well, we're set up through the Land Trust Alliance of BC with our insurance, and so they are very generous, and they offer a huge amount of coverage to any sort of environmental activity or outdoor activity that we could provide to members of the public. So, one of our roles is to facilitate that sort of good work going on through volunteers. There's so many good people who want to get involved and do great things for their community, and Greenways is sort of a way to make sure that can happen and still satisfy some of the requirements that the city or whoever has regarding insurance or all that background stuff that most people don't think about and don't see.
Now, I went to your website this morning before we began recording, and there's a big event coming up. It's not jumping out of my notes here at me, but it's full.
The Streamkeeper course.
Yes.
Yeah, the Streamkeeper course. We put it
There
in
it
the
is.
paper at the beginning of the month, and it was full within 10 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's fantastic, I mean, and we've run Streamkeeper courses in the past that we've had to put on additional courses because there's been so much interest. I mean, people love their salmon in Campbell River, of course, and streamkeeping is a lot about salmon habitat conservation.
I think they love their green belts too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's all connected.
Yeah.
You know, it's all connected.
Yeah, yeah. Bob, going back to the beginning, what was kind of some of the first projects, and then it's obviously spread out.
Okay, and I just, as this umbrella again, we can't be everything for everyone, but we can be this society that holds money. We can provide resources. We can, with our website, we can attract volunteers. And as Cynthia pointed out, we're helping the streamkeepers recruit new members.
Right.
So when we first started, and then when I arrived around in joined in 98, the money was follow the money. It was all for remember the fishermen were, they were trying to downsize the fleets, and there's a lot of unemployed fishermen. We were a very wealthy organization. We had Kathy Campbell and a full-time worker as sort of fisheries, almost like a fisheries advisor, and we had a Greenways person, and this big budget that came from DFO. So for the first 5 years, I keep telling people, I was a little confused. We were the Greenways Land Trust, but it was all fish. Huh. That money eventually disappeared, and our little organization was then a little bit in trouble, and then Jerry Fletcher found us an avenue to apply for money to the Gaming Society.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had to kind of reinvent ourselves at that point, and then we, instead of being sort of a bigger organization, we were one that was surviving, and again, this umbrella thing where we would support those who had ideas, but we couldn't do everything for them. So like people would come to us for the Laughing Willow, Chuck DeSorcy again, and we'd say, Chuck, if you're the champion, we can help out, but we can't do everything for you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way, and Cynthia has more on the projects, but it was pretty much all fish. Yeah. And then we continue to evolve to Adopt a Trail, to
broom bashing.
Broom bashing.
Yeah,
broom bashing has been there for
been a big one.
Yeah, the whole time.
Yeah.
And if I have the floor, but yeah, broom, and we debated early with broom bashing. Sometimes the idea was just to coordinate with Earth Day because that was a good day, but potentially it wasn't the best day to have the best effect on broom. But at least you're getting people out there engaged.
And the best days are when they're in flower.
Yeah.
Yes, and so now there's the broom. I think the Broom Busters, Morgan Osler and Carol Couture. They've got another group that are tackling that.
And Ron Kerr's in there all the time.
Yeah.
Ron Kerr, and we've gone. Sandra Milligan has been our champion to go. There's actually more threatening things that we can get on top of, and I should let Cynthia talk about that.
Sure.
But do you want us to talk about knotweed?
It's not milkweed, but what is it?
Yeah, Japanese knotweed is one of the ones that we've been really focusing on in the past couple of years. So it's a pretty nasty one for anyone who has a septic system or anything like that. It can get into your septic system and basically plug it up, destroy it. It can grow through pavement. It's really bad for infrastructure particularly. So we've been doing a lot of work on knotweed and in environmentally sensitive areas. It's bad for habitat, particularly along stream banks and river banks.
Is it toxic as well?
It's not toxic. You're probably thinking of giant hogweed.
Yes.
Yeah, giant hogweed is the really, really nasty toxic one. And I had a friend who actually got sprayed with giant hogweed around his neck, and 5 years later he still had to wear a little kerchief in the summertime because it causes this phytotoxic effect. Yeah. So whenever you go into the sun, you get blisters. And that was 5 years later after he'd had his exposure.
So folks, if you've got some invasive species in your garden, be careful how you deal with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah, do a little bit of research before you go ripping stuff out, because you can.
Now you got a great website. Are there resources on the site about invasive species? So are there pictures of them and things?
Well, we rely mostly on the Coastal Invasive Species Committee to do a lot of that education and outreach. We do a lot of the on-the-ground stuff, and of course we do education and outreach in Campbell River as well. But they have a fantastic website with all of the information that anyone would want to see.
Do you have links on your site?
Yes, we do.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I want to get back to the founding and the growth thing. Like you've obviously got lots and lots of people involved, but where does the money come from?
Do you want to?
Flip a coin.
I can do the first bit.
Okay.
So we have a significant chunk of our money comes from the province of BC through gaming.
Right.
So that's our main sort
What's
of.
the ballpark on that?
It's about $30,000 a year.
Oh, that's not a lot.
It's not a huge amount, but it's enough to sort of run the office and keep the office staff part-time, and pay for some staffing.
Yeah.
We also have the City of Campbell River donates. We've got $15,000 from them through the Community Partnerships Grant for the next 3 years for our volunteer coordinator position, which
And
is a
as we're
hugely
speaking,
important
they're going
position.
through the budget.
Yeah.
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 Have you heard if you got it passed yet or not?
Well, the Community Partnerships Grant is a little bit separate from the normal budget process, so
Okay.
that actually runs
Like-
in, we have to apply in July, I think, and then we hear
Okay.
in November. So we do have that confirmed for the
Okay.
next 3 years, which is a fantastic
Yeah.
thing that the city does in terms of
Yeah.
providing that funding on a 3-year basis, so you can actually
Yeah.
plan for the future.
So you're up to 45,000.
Yeah, and then the rest of our money, we actually get a significant contribution from the Browns Bay Chum Derby every year. They've been a fantastic supporter of our organization.
I saw them on the website as one of the sponsors.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's something like over the past 10 years, they've donated $65,000 to our organization or something in that ballpark range. So, you know, they're a fantastic supporter. We also had a big donation in this year from Nyerstar at Meyer Falls. So they also provided, you know, significant funding towards us and you know, sort of out of the blue, great Christmas present. So
Yeah. Do you get bequests from people?
I don't know if we've ever had a bequest.
Does that mean like give
If
us?
somebody dies and
dies-
the estate gives you.
Well, there's a couple old directors I'm kind of wouldn't mind leaning on, but we'll see.
But we do, I mean, we have some monthly donors and we have our members as well. So, and we have people who every year, you know, they give $100 or $200 at Christmas time. You know, that's their contribution to what the
So
work
it
that we
sounds like
do.
money is not your preoccupation. It's more like all of these programs you're coordinating.
Well, the more money we have, the more we can do. So
Yeah.
we always are out there looking for more money and bringing money into the community from external funders. So, I mean, in the past, we've had money from TD Friends of the Environment have been a big supporter. Canon, I think. There's lots of money out there that you can apply for small grants, and you know, we always sort of try and put our hat in the pile for those.
So how many?
Can I add
Go ahead.
too?
Sure.
So and when Cynthia, so Greenways also, which the city can't do, for some grants and proposals, it can only be a nonprofit that can apply.
Right.
So Greenways was pretty instrumental in getting the Jubilee Trail that goes along the highway. That was about $250,000. So it turned out it wasn't managed by us, it was managed by Richard Melanson. But we helped coordinate that and get that all through. But in other places where they bring in money for the urban forest management plan, we are allowed like a 10% overhead, things like that.
Yeah.
And then we should also give credit to there's many smaller donors, like again Kent Moeller does our income tax every year for the last you know, the whole time we've been doing it. Jamie Alquire does bridge designs. Tim Hortons provides money for every cleanup and broom bash. So there's all these small ones. So we're not natural fundraisers, the board, and we, you know, it'd be nice to have a very firm income stream, but all these people, I really get the sense of people wanting us to win. There's a lot of little things that are keeping us thriving.
I want to get back to how many on the board, but you mentioned bridge design. Now, Jeremy Maynard writes about this creek north of town with it have coho in it. And I think they recently added a bridge there, or maybe, I'm not sure if it's the Ripple Rock Outlook. But was that you guys too?
No, not that far.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was Charlie Cornfield when he was working for the Forest Service or Parks, he put a suspension bridge in. I think they've replaced it if it's at the Ripple Rock Trail.
Okay. Something
we
Greenways
did-
isn't involved in.
Yeah. Well, we did do the bridge over Willow Creek on the Jubilee Trail. So
Okay.
that's a recent bridge
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we've sort of been responsible
Right,
for
and
putting in.
and that funding was separate from the other project that we obtained ourselves as a
Yeah,
nonprofit.
that actually came from the Campbell River Community Foundation. So
right.
again, they're a fantastic supporter of us as well.
Yeah. So how many staff and how many on the board?
So staff, there's me,
Yeah.
And I'm part-time.
Yeah.
We have a volunteer coordinator, Libby King, and she's part-time as well, so she's 2 days a week,
Yeah.
year-round now with the City of Campbell River funding.
Yeah.
And we also employ a bookkeeper for a day a week, just to,
Yeah.
we go through, quite a lot of funding,
Yeah.
so it's nice to have
And
that.
you're acting for somebody on maternity leave?
Yeah, so Erin Noack is, had a baby boy in September, and so she'll be off for a year, and then she'll be back in October.
Oh. And the board?
The board, I believe there's 9 of us.
Yeah.
There's Chuck DeSorcy, founding member, Barbara Phipps, longtime member, myself, longtime member, and maybe I should list them or not. But anyways, I think it's the best board ever, and we've taken courses on governance, and we're a working board. So pretty much we do the governance at the board meetings, and then Cynthia will then say, here's what we're doing, can you help out on these things? So, and various board members champion different things. Because part-time, we could not do it all. So I'm really proud of our staff and our board.
Yeah.
I think they're awesome.
Well, you sure get good PR. I mean, I got 24 clippings here. So obviously the media likes you too. And why, I guess, wouldn't they?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. But there's a lot of do-good activities in Campbell River. As a matter of fact, I got a folder this thick of social agencies that are, doing good things. But I think you get more than your share of publicity. And I didn't say fair because, obviously, like, I don't know, illegal dumping, I think you're involved in that.
We helped a little bit with that. Was
Yeah.
Bud Logan was out, and again, because we're this umbrella organization, we can do a lot. We can take on some things. I mean, we help Bud by providing him with tools, but that's such an easy thing for us to do, and he's the one who did all the work.
Yeah.
So,
but this is a good example. The city recently put out a 2014 year in review, and it's I think 4 pages of things like new space for senior center, and I hope to have Helen on soon. And Whale of a Tale makes unique bench at Splash Park, blah, blah. But you guys are mentioned in about 6 or 8 projects.
yeah. Well, we work quite closely with the city, and they're a fantastic partner with us.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good work that we can do on their land, and it's beneficial to both.
Yeah, everybody wins. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think we do have an advocacy role. We're a moderate group, but I mean, again, I'm going to give Greenways credit. I know the city's doing it, but I don't think we'd have the urban forest management plan anywhere near where it is right now. I don't think we'd be anywhere near an invasive plant strategy without our members supporting things. So we are closely involved, and we've got very engaged members.
Actually, let's talk about trees. And that's the City of Campbell River pamphlet I have here. The City of Campbell River and Greenways Land Trust are partnering to develop an urban forest management plan for the city. So that's coming along. That's very current. How's it coming?
Yeah, it's I think it's past the final draft stage, so it should be coming before council soon, I think. Yeah. For
And
them
what's
to
involved?
decide on. Well, there's a lot that's involved. I mean, Greenways was responsible mostly for doing the inventory work at the beginning. So we went out and, with the help of Irv Penner, who sadly has passed away now, but he did a fantastic amount of volunteer work for us, and a little bit of contract work to do a lot of the inventory and mapping, and look at where a lot of our urban forest is, and various ways to improve it.
So do we need more trees in some areas?
Well, yeah, we do. There is a standard, the Pacific Northwest standard of having 40% canopy cover within an urban area. And I mean, we're pretty good. I can't remember the exact number that we're at, but in order to get to that 40%, we would need to plant more trees, and a lot more around diversifying our tree mix. So there's a lot of non-native species planted in various areas, and of course sometimes you need to have those for street trees and what have you. A giant Douglas fir is not going to be very good down a boulevard, but just diversifying some of those as well, so prevent disease.
A few weeks ago you presented at council. Do you remember the date, so people can look it up on the city website if they came to?
January
The 26th?
something like that.
Yeah, I had a...
Yeah,
I had a
26th, I
note.
think that sounds about right.
Yeah, but I think you mentioned that tree canopy issue. Yeah.
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 And I mean, trees are so important to the health of our, our urban areas. I mean, they provide so many benefits from, greenhouse gas reductions.
They soak up CO2.
They soak up
CO2 is
CO2.
good, by the way, but
They soak
it
up.
makes plants grow.
Yeah, but trees also soak up water, and that's
Yeah.
a big issue for some of our urban creeks and streams is that we have really what's called flashy streams. So during
Yeah.
a storm event, the water levels rise up, they flood, but then in the summertime we have no water in some of the creeks at all, and that's really not very good for the health
Yeah.
of those creeks either. So the more trees and sort of natural wet areas that we can keep, wetlands
Yeah.
and things, the
Yeah.
better for our urban creeks.
Yeah.
So
Sims Creek watershed, for example.
yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, one of the projects that's getting a bit of attention in the media and a bit of buzz around town is the Mert Thompson Trail, and that's a Campbellton neighborhood issue as well. But there's something to do with soil there. What's happening there?
Well, we're working, Chuck DeSorsi is one of our directors who's working on that project. So the city actually put on an organic soil care workshop last year, mostly for its staff, but they invited us along, and I think a few other members of the community. And Chuck went along and learned all about organic soil care. So we're looking at down Mert Thompson. A lot of the soil is pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, it's basically along the Campbell River.
Yeah. And it's been heavily impacted in the past from industrial development down there.
Yeah.
So a lot of soil compaction, and there's not a lot of soil actually there.
And there's invasive species and
Yeah.
riprap, and it's
Yeah. So the soil project is working towards actually developing a better soil there, so that we can plant into that in future and develop a more forested kind of forest corridor along there. At the moment, it's still sort of in the first part of the phases, but we will be working on that in the future. And that's also because we have been down there planting in the past. But we have a lot of our trees die because the soil is really poor.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can build up the soil there and get those trees
Now,
surviving.
time flies here when you're having fun. Are there some projects you'd like to highlight? That we've mentioned two, but are...
Yeah, Bob, anything?
Well, we have a maintenance agreement with the Ministry of Forests to maintain the trails in the Beaver Lodge lands. Oh. So that's one thing. Now,
meaning a maintenance agreement, they help pay for it?
Well, no, we've actually, Cynthia got a program called Adopt a Trail, and there's very kind volunteers that are maintaining different parts of the trails. Maintaining trails is not necessarily expensive until there's places maybe you got to put gravel and do things, but there is no funding for it. So again, it's kind of one of those crazy things like, why are you guys doing this again? But we just thought it fits our mission. This is what we should try to do. Yeah. And so the next thing that's happening, just sort of a heads up, there are forest health problems in the Beaver Lodge land.
Really?
There's danger trees going down annually that have to be come down. There's root rot on the south end, and the alder on the east side and the north end are coming of age. So the Ministry of Forests has given Greenways Land Trust an opportunity to potentially timber salvage. If the public agrees and if the Beaver Lodge Technical Advisory Committee agrees this is the right thing to do, then potentially we can timber salvage those areas, and any funds or profits that we obtain, we can then put back into the Beaver Lodge lands and the trails. Yeah. So again, it's money is always short, and we're finding creative ways, and the Ministry of Forests has been working with us to find creative ways to kind of return the circle, help out the volunteers. So I'm excited about that. Okay. We've been working through that for about 2 years, but we're getting closer.
I'm a big fan of woodlots and selective logging.
Yes.
You can log constantly and have more wood when you're finished. And that's kind of what you're, I think, talking about here then.
Yeah. With Salvage Harvest, it's mostly dead and down trees that we would be looking at salvaging.
There was another one here, Frogger 15 annual fundraiser.
Yeah, so we're getting geared up to do some of the organizing for the Frogger 15, so it'll be our 3rd year of running it. That happens in September. So if anyone's interested in joining, it's a 15K fun run, but there is also a relay option.
There's something I've written down here, 25?
So the 25 kilometers is for the Greenways Loop. So the
Okay.
Frogger is partly a fundraiser for Greenways, but it's also an awareness raising initiative for the Greenways Loop, which has always been a long-term vision of Greenways, to see a big loop throughout Campbell River. So it goes, down the ERT through the Beaver Lodge and then out the Jubilee Trail and up the Seawalk and back into town. So there's still a little section there that hasn't been completed, but I think it's the most difficult section.
Between Maryland and Jubilee, there's no, like the Seawalk ends.
Oh, yes.
So that needs, it's expensive. So the city's done a design for it, and then, but potentially someone like us, again, there might be a grant for, that nonprofits could apply for, so.
There's something also about an information kiosk and a sign for the Jubilee Connector. Is that related?
I think that's been done.
That's
yeah,
been done.
I think that's done.
They're really nice signs on the dogwood end.
Yeah. One of the upcoming projects that I'd like to feature is just more invasives work as well this summer, coming up this summer. We've been doing a lot of work down at Bakey Island with the yellow flag iris. So that's another invasive that you probably have in your garden pond. Lots of people do, and it takes over. So we've been trying to get it out of the estuary as much as possible and doing work down there.
And then also for researching this, I see you guys are involved in Hague Brown House, provides maintenance at Hague Brown House.
Yeah, we do more work down there as well. A lot of just maintaining the property to prevent the invasives from getting totally out of control. And
we look after the field, and actually one of our directors, or past directors, Jerry Fletcher, if anybody wants to volunteer to help keep the invasives out of the Hague Brown, we could use some help.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We've got big lawnmowers, and we do need more help down there.
A city beefs up new environment bylaw with new fines. That's November 26th. And that was protecting eagle nest trees and things.
Yeah, Terry Martin at the city, actually, the environmental coordinator, she was instrumental in putting that bylaw through, and it's fantastic. It's really great. It's the city is leading the way with that bylaw. We weren't really that involved with it, but
that's good.
it's fantastic to see the city taking environmental protection really seriously.
This is not in Campbell River, but there's a story, The Colonist, February 24th. Creditors to vote on TLC plan to shed $8 million in debt. And that's the Land Conservancy of BC. Now, that's a similar group, but not related.
No, they're not related. They are, I believe they are a land trust. But yeah, they're a lot different from us. First of all, they're province-wide.
And they're buying land, and they were they bought land they couldn't afford.
Yeah, well, I think what ended up happening with them was, they had good people on the board, but they ended up overstretching themselves a little bit. So they ended up mortgaging some of their properties in order to purchase other properties, and then they got in financial trouble and they had to sell it. So we haven't gone there. That's one of the reasons why we don't want to take on that risk. Not that we couldn't do in future, but these things do cost money, and we need to make sure that we have the stability and funding to take those on.
For our Bakey Island, it was the Nature Conservancy, which is, Chuck informed me, it's national, and they're solvent, they're good, and he says the reason they've done well is they've kept a narrow focus of what to apply for. They haven't got extended.
Well, I didn't mention shoreline cleanup. That's you guys too. Yeah, we got a wrap.
I think the Campbell River Environmental Committee normally takes that on mostly. So that's Leona Adams.
Well, Bob Dice, President, and Cynthia Bendixson, Operations Manager of Greenways Land Trust. Thank you very much for coming on Talk About.
Well, thank you very much.
And they have a great website. And if you want to watch this show again, Shaw TV North Island has a YouTube channel, so check us out there. Thank you, volunteers, and thank you, Shaw, for putting on Talk About.